Hello and welcome to SonicEd Scotland Lesson 2 Edit Essentials. In this lesson, we're going to look at the fundamentals of editing audio in your DAW. As before, most of this you'll already know, so we'll treat this as revision. We'll look at some MIDI editing as well. First up, we've got some ultra basics in the form of moving clips. There's a couple of different ways you can go about doing this, which we'll look at just now. First is the grab tool. Most, if not all, DAWs will have a tool just like this one, which allows you to pick up and move clips like this. Dead easy. You can also cut and paste a clip to move it. You do this the same way you would in a word processor. Select the clip, as I've done here, go into Edit and then Cut. Find where you want to put the clip by selecting with the Selector tool. Then go back into Edit and select Paste. As you can see, the clip is now back in place. Next, we're going to do something more precise. You might have noticed I have Pro Tools in grid mode just now. That means anything I try to move will be aligned to the grid, which is perfectly precise, but only really useful for music. Some post-production applications will ask you to place sounds at specific times. This is known as spotting. Pro Tools has a spot mode that, when you click on a clip, brings up the spot dialog, which looks like this. As you can see, you're offered where you want to start or end the sound, or where you want to place the sync point. Input a value for the most appropriate part of the sound you want to move, and hit OK. In this case we're moving the start to bar 7. The clip then moves to the new location. Spotting is probably best reserved for post-production, since you're probably faster using the grid mode for music. Let's take a look at some basic editing for clips. You should probably know this, so we'll get through it quickly. Here's the Trim tool. The Trim tool is used to trim the beginning and end of a clip, as the name suggests. Watch. You should trim out parts of a clip where there's nothing happening. For all there's nothing playing, there's still audio. It might be an amp hum or a drummer talking to themselves. If you've punched in and out of the recording as you went, you'll probably just be trimming loose ends. If not, you want to delete the unwanted audio. The fastest way to do this is to select it with the Selector tool and use your Delete or Clear function. Usually, the Delete key on your keyboard will also do this. That done, use the Trim tool to tidy up. Watch. What you want to be careful with when you're trimming or cutting audio is clicks or pops. You can introduce unwanted clicks if you edit audio in the wrong place. Let's have a closer look at the waveform here using the Zoomer tool. The best place to edit the wave is here, where the waveform intercepts the horizontal axis. It's a bit of a drag zooming in this far just for an edit, but it will result in a cleaner edit. Having zoomed out again, let's take a look at an alternative. You can add a fade to the beginning or end of a clip. A fade will take the clip from or to a point where, even if there's a dodgy edit, you won't be able to hear it. Here's how you apply a fade to a clip in Pro Tools. Select where you want to fade with the Selector tool, go into Edit, then Fades, then Create. This brings up the Fades dialog. Use this display to change the slope of the fade and hit OK when you're done. If you apply a fade where two clips meet, you'll be offered the Crossfade dialog. It works the same way as the fade dialog for one clip, only you're working with two clips. Crossfades can be useful if you're trying to piece together multiple takes. Let's move on. Here's something that may come in handy if you're editing across a number of tracks like these drums. You can group clips into one mega clip or a clip group. Use the selector or grab tool to select the clips you want in your group. Then go into the clip menu and select Group, as you can see. You've now got a clip group, which you can edit or loop as a single entity. I'll demonstrate looping shortly. You can group any kind of clip into a single group, including different kinds of clips, like MIDI, audio, or even video. To move on, I mentioned earlier that you might want to loop clips. Looping, as the name suggests, is when you take a clip and repeat it. There's two ways to loop clips in Pro Tools. You can copy and paste, as I've demonstrated earlier, or you can use the loop tool. To use the looper, start with a selection like this clip group here. Go into Clip and select Loop to bring up the loop dialog. This window lets you determine the length of the loop, how many times you want to loop the clip, how long you want to loop the clip for, or if you'd rather loop the clip until the next event, there's an option for that as well. The Enable Crossfade option sets up crossfades between each instance of the loop. Let's loop this 7 more times. Looping is really straightforward, but it is a handy way of duplicating clips throughout your session. Let's move on. Let's look at MIDI. MIDI could be a lesson all of its own. We're just going to look at the basics, the essentials of using MIDI for music, that is, notes, note lengths, and velocity. We're going to take a look at the MIDI edit window in Pro Tools, but first we're going to create a MIDI track. To do this, go into the Track menu, New, then select Instrument or MIDI track. For this, we're going to select Instrument track. An instrument track in Pro Tools is a combination of a MIDI track and an auxiliary track, which allows you to play MIDI through an instrument on a single track. As you can see, the new instrument track has appeared here. We're going to call it Percussion. Now we can go into the Window menu in the MIDI editor. You can see in that menu that Pro Tools also has a score editor. As you can see, this looks a bit different to the musical stave you might be familiar with. The vertical axis here represents your notes. This is called a piano roll. The further up the screen, the higher the note. The horizontal axis, as in the normal edit window, is time. You draw notes onto the display using the pencil tool. You can also import MIDI files if you have them. I'm going to go back to the Mix window and put an instrument on the new instrument track. This is a virtual instrument plugin called Xband 2. Xband has a load of instruments and sounds available for use. Here, I'm going to add some percussion by drawing with the pencil tool. I'll choose a percussion preset. Perhaps this big room timpani. I'll close this box just now and go back to the MIDI edit window. I'm going to draw in notes with the pencil tool. As you might expect, the pencil tool can be used to draw just about anything in Pro Tools. You can use it to draw automation as well as MIDI notes. So let's draw some notes in. We're in grid mode here, so notes are going to stay locked to the grid. Drawing the notes using the pencil tool lets you define the length. You can also use the trim tool for this as well. This box at the bottom defines the velocity at which notes play. When you draw notes with the pencil tool, they all come in at the same velocity. You can use the pencil tool to edit the velocity of the note. can also draw across the velocity window to change the velocity for notes in that area. However, if you've got a selection, you can only draw to those notes. MIDI clips can be edited in the same way as audio clips in Pro Tools, using the grab tools, the selector tools and the trim tools. However, you can't use fades. You can also play in MIDI notes if you have a MIDI controller like a keyboard. That's about it for this lesson. Make sure you drop me some feedback using the survey. This is lesson 2, Edit Essentials. Cheers.